Why should women not keep their hair loose or open or untied? Is a question that a lot of you as women will be coming across. I have seen many males where people ask me as to why are women of these days keeping their hair open, untied? Can't you speak about this in your lectures and advice? It's not a knee-jerk reaction that I'm going to state now. Who should be dressed as what? I feel it is better left to that individual. I agree that for a civilization to thrive and sustain, you may need to have some set of coded virtues, values, or do's and don'ts, like how an organization has. And to even consistently follow it is important. At the same time, a civilization should not belittle one community or one gender and should not impose rules at the cost of somebody else's freedom, feasibility, flexibility, and their comfort. So in my opinion, insisting on something is never the attribute of Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma. I cannot speak for other religions. Other religions could be more imposing, and we shouldn't be bothered about that. From the perspective of Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism, we have never known that a rule is made and if you don't follow, you're beheaded or you're killed or you'll be rotting in hell. Just because a woman keeps her hair loose, it doesn't mean she has to rot in hell. So first we need to take this taboo off our minds, that we end up being the moral police for somebody else. At the same time, a question has been asked, why have a lot of people, despite their rich educational background, said that women shouldn't keep their hair loose? So I'll put it this way. To even answer this question, I need to tweak the question, because I see, at least in my generation, our generation, we see a lot of men sporting long hair. Even some of the well-known actors of all industries, be it the Hollywood, Bollywood, Tollywood, Collywood, whatever would you want, you see a lot of men having long hair and they all sport it open. So why shouldn't the topic of men tying up their hair come? So let's make it gender a-specific. We can first ask the question, why should anybody, the man or the woman or anybody, tie up their hair? If this was the question, I will not give you a direct answer. I'll tell you what references have been made in our ancient scriptures, and we need to leave the decision of tying or not tying to that person. Now you may be asking, sir, we wondered if this question could have a very quick 2-minute answer. We are all like very busy people and we need like quick answers, very prompt answers, short answers. You're giving a long lecture. This is how I am. And this is my style, and I have revered our scriptures. I love them. And in most of my talks, I quote from those scriptures because I love them, I respect them. So if you're looking out for a speaker who can give you short answers, probably you should not be listening to this video. Nevertheless, for those of you who are continuing, here it goes. When we speak of hair, hair becomes one important bhagam of our body. So much so that there have been immense descriptions about hair. Let's take, for example, there is a work called Lakshmi Sahasram, which incidentally talks about the beauty of Sri Mahalakshmi as goddess Padmavati in Tiruchanur in the state of Andhra Pradesh. So it has over 1,000 verses, and there is a chapter called Saundarya Stabakam where the poet describes the hair locks, the tresses of Sri Mahalakshmi in over 20 verses. So that important hair is. So there have been poets who have exclusively worked on how to describe the hair tresses of Sri Mahalakshmi. Let's talk of men. In Srimad Ramayanam, the Adikavya of Valmiki, in Balakandam, when Vishwamitra comes and seeks Dasharatha's intervention in sending his eldest of the sons, Rama, along with him to the forest, he says, Swaputram Rajashardulam Ramam Satya Parakramam Kaka Paksha Dharam Veeram Jeshtam Me Dadumarhasi. Send me that son with Kaka Paksha. What is Kaka Paksha? In those days, it was a fashion that when men combed their curly hair, a certain locks of their curly hair will fall near the temple. So that is referred to as Kaka Paksham. Kaka Paksha Dharam Veeram Jeshtham Me Datumarhasi. Give me that son with those tresses that fall near the hair locks. So people were referred to with hair as a description. Next, when you deal with Krishna, the descriptions are immense. Leela Shuka tells Chikuram Bahulam Veralam Brahmaram Mridulam Vachanam Vipulam Nayaram Adharam Madhuram Vadanam Lalitam Chapalam Charitam Kadanubhave. The hair should be shining, resplendent, effervescent, curly in nature. So hair has been described. Let's not forget Lord Shiva. So when the waters of Ganga were to come on earth, they fell on Lord Shiva's head. So Bhagirath was praying that the waters should be released from his matted locks. A Tamil poet tells, Kunitta Purumamum Kovvai Shavvayit Kumitchiripum Panitta Shadayum Pavaram Pol Meniyit Palvin Nirum. Vedanta Deshika tells, Jadakirana Shakaladhara Jatila Natapati Makudatata Natanapatu Vibuda Saridati Ati Bahula Madugala Lalita Padalaja Upamridita Nijamrijina Jahadupala Tanurchira Paramamuni Vara Yuvatinuta. So the description of Ahalya Shapa Vimochanam begins with the matted locks of Lord Shiva. So be it Lord Shiva, be it Mahalakshmi, be it Rama, Krishna, there has been immense description of hair. Now, let's talk about tying or untying hair. The first example that I am going to give you is from Valmiki's Ramayanam, where there is a description of Diti, the wife of Kashyapa, having lost her sons to the sons of Aditi, her other sister. The sons of Aditi were the Suras or the Devas. The sons of Diti were the Daityas or the Asuras. So she lost her son, so she goes and asks Kashyapa that she has to perform tapasya to beget sons of immense prowess. So she tells, please give me, grant me that boon, for which he tells, Purne Varsha Sahasretu Shuchir Yadi Bhavishyasi Putram Trailokya Hantaram Matstvam Janaishyasi. So to beget sons of such prowess, you need to be Shuchi, very hygienic and very clean. He doesn't elaborate on that. Nevertheless, in Srimad Bhagavata Mahapuranam, there is a shloka. No Chishta Sprishta Salila, the same Kashyapa tells Aditi. Sandhyaya Mukta Murdhaja Anachita Sanyata Vagna Samvita Bahischaret. Remember to be hygienic in the Sandhya time. What is Sandhya? Sandhya is that phase in a day which could hallmark the beginning of the day. So if you see early morning in a tropical country, between 5 and 7, you see the transition from the light sky to the fully risen sun. So that is called the dawn, and then you move towards the dusk in the evening. Again it moves from the evening time to the night. So that transition, that's called Sandhya Sandhya. But the morning Sandhya is Pratah Sandhya, the evening is Sayan Sandhya. So during the Sandhya times, during that time, he tells, Hey Diti, Mukta Murdhaja. Murdhani means head. Murdhaja means that which is born of head. So from the scalp is the hair. Mukta Murdhaja, do not go with open hair, he tells in Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, he tells be hygienic in Valmiki's Ramayana. He tells do not go with open hair in the Sandhya time in Bhagavatam. Again in Valmiki Ramayana we have one reference, but that reference is slightly different. When Kaikeyi wants to showcase her anger to Dasharatha, she goes to Kopa Bhavanam, to a chamber where she can show that quality. There is a shloka. Krodhagare nipatita sa babhau malinambara ekavenim dridham badhva gatastvena kinnari. So she went into the Kopa Bhavanam by having a braid, ekaveni. It was tied, but she tied that veni up into an uplifted bun and went into the Kopa Bhavan. She did not keep her hair open, but there is a reference to hair there. Again, let's go to Valmiki's Ramayana when Sita was abducted by Ravan. So there, the shloka is Vamena Sitam Padmakshim Murdhajeshu Karena Saha Urvautu Dakshinenena Yeva Parinagraha Panina Parijagraha Panina. So Ravana, who came in the disguise of an ascetic, a Paribrajaka, abducted Sita. How did he abduct her? He held her thigh on the left hand. Vamena Sita. he held her hair in the left hand. Vamena Sita Padmakshi Murdhajeshu Karena Saha. So Murdhajeshu, her hair in the left, probably it could have got untied. We don't know what happened after that because it was a violent abduction. But later there was a hair clip that she gives away to Hanuman, the Chudamani that she gives in Sundarakandam. So we know he held her by the hair, but we don't know what happened to it, whether it was tied or untied. Now let me move to Mahabharata. In Mahabharatam, even before she was pawned in the game of dice, Yudhishthira was leading the Pandavas and fighting the Kauravas, especially in the game of dice. He said, I am going to pawn my wife. That time he describes her. He tells, Abhati Padmavat Vaktram Sasvedam Mallikevacha Vedi Madhya Dirghakeshi Tamrasya Nati Lomasha. Dirghakeshi, the one who has got broad stretch of hair. Again, he doesn't tell whether it was tied at the end or not. It must have been tied, but he says that she must have had broad and long hair, like a Rapunzel whom we have read. So, Dirghakeshi. Later, when she is being asked to come to the court by the attendant called Pratikamin, she denies. She tells, I am in my periods. I am already tired. I will not be able to come to the court. That too in this state. I have been in a state of one piece of cloth. Probably there were no sanitary pads then. So, Ekavastra Rajasvala. I am already bleeding. Then upon her denial, Dushasana comes and drags her to the court. So that time, Anantakavi in Bharata Champu tells, Ye Rajasuya Vavruthe Jalena Mahakratau Mantra Putena Siktaha Te Pandavanam Paribhuya Viryam Balat Pravrishta Dhritarashtrena. So to that lady whose hairs were purified by the waters of Punyaha Vachanam waters doing Rajasuya Yajnam, the same hair have now been forcefully, violently, barbaric fashion held by Dushasana and has been pulled to court. Now it was untied then. Then she was humiliated. That is when, what happens later, she vows that she will not tie her open hair until it is smeared with the blood of Dushasana's chest. So when his chest is torn open, the blood that gushes out should be smeared on her hair, is what her vow states. So this has been translated into a beautiful drama called Veni Samharam by Bhattanarayana. There is a dialogue Bhima tells to Draupadi, that is Krishna. He tells, when I look at your hair, I find the urge to kill Dushasana immediately. Wait, do not tie your hair. I will bring the blood for you. So, Chanchad Bhuja Brahmita Chandamat Gadabhigata Sanchurnitoru Yugalasya Suyodhanasya Snatna Vanadhana Shonita Shona Panimstya Stamgishyati Kachanstava Devi Bhimaha. So Bhima tells, I promise. Then towards the end of the Natakam, which is Veni Samharam, Bhimasena brings the blood and he smears it and he tells, now you tie it up. He tells, Bhavati Sanyamyata Idani Dhartarashtra Kulakala Ratri Dushasana Viluliteyam Veni. Here is the blood. He is a Kalaratri, Dushasana. His blood has been brought. Now tie your Veni. Veni is the braid. That time, you know what Draupadi tells? She tells, Natha Vismrita Smyeyatam Vyaparam Nathasya Prasadena Punarapi Sisishye. So, I have lost touch because it has been 12 years of Vanavasam, 1 year of Ajnatavasam, now the Yuddham. It's more than 13 years since I've had the habit of tying my hair. So you do it. I have lost that practice. So you do it. Then there is a shloka. Krodhan dhairyasya mokshat kshata narapatibihi panduputraih kritani pratyasham mukta keshan yuta bhujabalaihi parthivantav purani krishnayaha keshapashaha kupita yamasakho dhumaketu kuruna soyam baddha prajanam viramatu nidhanam swastiragyam kulebhyaha. So here they tell that while her hair was tied by Bhima, the hair of the wives of all the Kauravas was let loose, because it was also a belief in certain communities for a certain period of time that if a woman would let her hair loose, she will lose her husband. I don't know what is the connection between tying the hair and losing the husband. Nevertheless, they had this belief. So then Yudhishthira says, after her hair was tied up, there is a beautiful dialogue. Devi yeshata veni samharo abhinandyate. So Veni samharam. So your hair has finally been tied. Nabhastalas Sancharina Siddhajanena. Now the Siddhas who bless with positivity, optimistic vibrations around us are now traveling in the sky and looking at you finally. So the corollary is they were not looking at her because her hair was open. Now, I have given you an example from Mahabharatam elaborately, quoting from Mahabharatam and the allied literature. Same is the case with Bhagavatam and Ramayanam. So we have an advice given by Diti to Diti by Kashyapa that do not keep your hair loose. We have Draupadi and Sita who were humiliated or abducted by Ravana and Dushyasana by holding their hair. We have Draupadi's vow of not tying her hair till she gets the blood of Dushyasana. So our culture has more or less dwelled deep on Sita and Draupadi, who are likely, in my opinion, the protagonists of Ramayana and Mahabharata. So there is an inertia. See, for example, I go to a theme park, I get into a roller coaster ride. I go in such 3 or 4 types of roller coasters. When I come down and walk and stay at home, I'll still have the feeling of moving in that particular be it a roller coaster or a merry-go-round, whatever you call it, that particular train. It happens even with normal trains. You travel for 36 hours, 48 hours in a train. After you come home, you'll have the feeling that you're going in a train. So probably since our civilization has been so deep tuned into Ramayanam, Bhagavatam and Mahabharatam, that these verses and especially the states of Sita, Kaikeyi, Draupadi, Diti has crept into the minds of especially the men and to some extent the women, that they feel that if the hair is let open, something bad will happen. There is no direct verse that a person can actually link. If your hair is open, then something will some calamity will happen. Then, as far as I know, there is no direct verse. So, if the question has to be asked, if the hair can be let open, can be loose or not, it must be asked in general. Men, women, anybody, the third gender, whoever. So, whoever keeps the hair open, is it good or not? In my opinion, nobody should do a moral policing or should associate this with the character of a person. Nevertheless, there are certain things associated with keeping the hair open. For example, tinea capitis. So this is I would call it a certain kind of a disorder or a disease. Maybe the medical practitioners will use better terms. In my common man's parlance, I will call it, it's a superficial fungal infection of the skin of the scalp. So this is a fungal infection. Generally people call it the ringworm. It's not exactly the ringworm. It will lead to patches and person will find it itching. There will be inflammation. So what happens is when a person sleeps on the bed and leaves certain, the hair falls and the part of the scalp starts flaking, there are chances where some researchers say it could be communicable, need not be necessarily communicable to the other person. Likewise, there is another infection called Trichobacteriosis axillaris, which is a bacterial infection which again has to do with hair in the armpits and other parts of the body. So hair essentially in civilization and probably in medical science has been construed as something that needs to be groomed well by both the men and the women. Or else if you don't maintain hair properly, there could be certain kind of pathogens which you may give rise to, which could be communicable. So ultimately what happens in a household, be it a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom villa, wherever you're living, in whichever part of the world you are, be it the man cooking or the woman cooking, whoever lets their hair loose, there are chances that the hair or its associated flakes could fall into the food. Finally, what we consume is the food as human beings. I have spotted many times that there are strands of hair in the food that I cook. It could be my hair, it could be my wife's hair, my mother's hair, my mother-in-law's hair. We don't know. So in such cases, we may at that moment find it disgusting. So for hygienic sake, probably be it the man who cooks or the woman who cooks, while you're cooking, probably you can have the hair tied, if it's long hair or short hair, however it is, or you get those disposable hair, I don't know what do you call it, the chef caps or the disposable caps or some kind of cotton caps that will help you keep the hair closed while you're cooking. Because finally what you cook is what you eat, and the intermediate processes you serve it to your God if that's your custom in your family. So let's try to create a hygienic world. We know what a pathogen, a microscopic thing could do to the world. It has just literally made the world stop for a considerable period of time. So let's not do something that's unhygienic. Now, what beyond cooking? Beyond cooking, what if I keep my hair open? The man asks or the woman asks. I would again say, it's your choice. See, this has nothing to do with you getting moksham or not. I keep my hair open, so finally I'll not get moksham. We don't have to extrapolate it to that extent. You don't have to character assassinate anybody. You don't have to impose it on anybody. So there is always a question in our civilization whether the man or the woman should keep their hair tied or not. I've given you instances where there have been cases of people keeping their hair open due to some humiliation that they have faced, due to abduction, various other reasons. So to leave the hair open or not is the man's choice or the woman's choice. But to some extent it has to do with the hygiene, the lifestyle in which we live. Probably we should leave it there and we should let people choose what they want. That is a better way rather than imposing something, because Vedic civilization has never imposed, it has explained. To accept or not is that individual's choice. That's where the civilization should stop, and that's where the freedom of the individual should begin. So this is what I have learned of, this is what I have researched, this is what I have presented. To find it convincing or not is your choice. So I leave it there.